Hello and welcome to Mellow Labs. On today's episode, I'm solving a problem. Since I've started doing this whole YouTube thing more regularly, I've realized I spend a lot of time sitting down. Now, I know I host most of my videos standing up, but that's because I think it makes me more energetic and more engaging. But for anything else like video editing, research, and soldering, I'm usually sitting down, and that's a problem because as we all know, sitting is the new vaping. Whether that statement has any scientific basis, I have no idea. What I do know is that after I sit down for a long period of time and then go out for a day's walk, my lower back hurts like hell, and I'd really like it not to. So I've been trying to think of ways to make myself use the standing desk function more often in my day-to-day, and I came to the conclusion that my desk needs to be inverted. Let me explain. Let's say I go to the kitchen to make myself a cup of tea, something I do more times a day than I wish to admit. By the way, did you know that if you support me over on Patreon, you get early access to all my videos, as well as tons of exclusive content, and work in progress updates for whatever I'm working on. Please actually consider supporting me. It actually really helps a lot for projects like this and other ones I'm working on. So now I've made my cup of tea and I'm coming back to my desk, but my desk is in the sitting down position. And I don't want to push the button to make it come up. So I'm gonna put my tea down and I'm gonna sit down and continue with whatever I was doing. But what if instead, when I got up to make my tea, the desk just came up with me? Then when I come back with my freshly made tea, well, my desk is already in the standing position. I might as well just continue standing up and working what I was working on. Let me show you how I made it. It's actually super easy. Let's start with the desk. My desk in particular is a flexi spot. I'm not sponsored, but if they do want to send me one, this one's very wobbly. And here, I have to give a huge shout out to the FlexiSpot / Home Assistant hacking community because they've basically made this plug and play. Normally, I'd have to use the control panel that comes with my desk to make it go up and down, but some smart people realized that at the end of this cable is just an RJ45 connector. And then they figured out how to talk to it, and then they published it all online. So all I really had to do to make this work is sacrifice an RJ45 cable, slap it onto an ESP8266, and 3D print a little case for it, and that's it. The wiring does vary slightly depending on the model of the controller board and the driver board you have, but for me, both of them were listed, so all I had to do was make this little doohickey and plug it in, and it popped up as an ESP home integration. There are also a couple different versions. For example, if you use an ESP32, you can have pass-through mode where you can have both the Home Assistant integration and the original control panel, but I decided not to, so I have just the Home Assistant integration. And that's all you need to make this desk smart. Honestly, once again, huge thank you to the FlexiSpot hacking community. You guys have made this so much easier than I expected. I thought I was gonna have to recreate the whole main board and use my own motor drivers and all that, but no, just upload some code, slap an RJ45 connected to it, and it works. With that out the way, let's move on to the chair. So the only thing I need the chair to do is to report to Home Assistant when I'm sitting on my chair and when I'm not. And that's kind of a tricky thing to do because my butt has a track record of flattening everything that goes under it. I'm not kidding. This pillow used to be like 3 times as thick, and don't even get me started on the actual chair cushion pillow because that's been gone for a while. So picking a sensor that wouldn't break after like a week of me sitting on it is kind of tricky. I wanted to go with like a DIY solution, but they didn't fill me with a lot of confidence. Another thought I had was to put an IR sensor at the back here that would detect anything within like the range, but then I'm like, I sometimes sit on my chair weird, it's probably not always gonna work. So after a bit of research, I ended up with one of these car chair pressure sensors, and it works really well. I've not had any issues with it. It's really easy to set up with Home Assistant. The only real issue I have is that it's pretty small for the size of chair, so you have to strategically position it where there's always going to be contact. Like for example, I'm not going to put it back here because sometimes I like to sit on the edge. So around this area seems to be the best place to put it. Now let's go to the back of the chair where the sensor connects to an ESP8266 connected to a 10,000 milliamp hour battery bank. Now I know what you're going to tell me. This isn't energy efficient. This battery is only going to last like a week or so. And I know. It's not the solution I wanted, but it's the solution I ended up with. See, first I tried using Zigbee on an ESP32C6, but that wouldn't connect to my Home Assistant integration, so I skipped it. Ideally, I would have it connect to Home Assistant whenever there was a state change, like when I sit down or when I stand up, but for some reason, I couldn't get Deep Sleep to work. If you have ideas, let me know down below. But for now, I just ended up with a big battery bank and the ESP constantly connected to Home Assistant, which does drain the battery, yes. So this is why I made this whole battery bank detachable, so that I can take it overnight and charge it after like a week of using, and then I can just plug it back in and continue using it. Now let's go over how I've set everything up inside of Home Assistant. So I'm inside of ESP Home, and as you can see, I've got an integration for my desk, which as I said is just copied and pasted from the GitHub repository, and here I have an integration for my chair, which is just a binary sensor that goes on and off depending on whether I'm sitting on it or not. And here I have an analog sensor that sends me the battery voltage. So now if I go here, this is the desk integration, and as you can see, I can make the desk go down. You have to flick the switch twice. I'm not sure why this is, but I'm not going to complain because it works. So I can move it down, and then I can move it back up. And then down here you also have things like the memory buttons, so you can set up custom heights as well as uptime and signal strength. And here I have the integration for my chair, and as you can see, I've got the battery voltage. I'm still kind of mapping this out, so I'm not sure what the low end actually is, but when I figure that out, I'm going to set up an alert that tells me to charge the chair battery. And here is my chair occupancy sensor, and as you can see, the desk is doing its job. I'm spending a lot more time out of my chair. Eventually I'm also going to set up an automation that like tracks how long I've been in my chair, and if it's for like too many hours in a row, it's just going to lift the desk up for me. Now let's go over to the automation that I have set up, and as you can see, the trigger is when the state changes. Now normally I have a little delay here that waits for the chair sensor to actually be in that position for like 5 to 10 seconds, because otherwise it automatically sends my desk up whenever I like change positions or scratch my butt. So that's not great. And here in actions, I have a sequence that presses the button to make the desk go up or down, waits a second, and then presses it again, because like I showed you in the integration, you have to click it twice in order for it to actually do the action. But yeah, that's the entire automation. So as you can see, this is a really easy project for you guys to make yourself, if you have a standing desk, obviously. All of the links you need are right below the like and subscribe button, wink wink. And if this video gets 300 likes, I'll let you guys lower and lift my desk through the chat on my next week's live stream. See you there. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Let's start with the desk. Ah, shit.